My camera off. There we go. Camera's back. Welcome everyone to the analysis show for the 10th anniversary Heroes of the Storm release tournament. Week 3. This was the last chance qualifier. Actually, where's the Wikipedia thing up? There we go. This is the last chance qualifier. So we scroll all the way down here, and this is what we get. We see Stack of Doom and Deep Dive Extreme qualified. Team Crack Green and Three-Legged Cat are Surge Energy, Names Overrated, and Madness are all out. Ash forfeited. They decided not to continue to play in the tournament, so we actually had one less set of games than we should have this week, essentially. And congratulations to the teams that have qualified, and then that will be the playoff. So it's going to be Rip versus LSL Enjoyers, Rocket Raccoons versus Exodia Stack, and then the lower bracket will be Stack of Doom versus the loser of Rip versus SL Enjoyers, and Deep Dive Extreme versus the loser of Exodia Stack versus Rocket Raccoons. And we don't have a ton of questions this week. You guys didn't ask very much. I don't know. Maybe you don't like me anymore. No, I understand. I expect a lot of questions to be next week, and so hopefully this will be a relatively short show. I also want to make the brief announcement. Spazzo is continuing to update his UI. At this point, I feel like pretty much just for me. I feel like there's not a ton of other people that use it. Certainly there's no one else who uses it publicly. I know there's a couple people who have messaged me asking, oh, how do you do that thing? And they downloaded it and they worked it out. So people are using it privately, but I'm the only person using it publicly. So he's implementing a new Sylve feature for me. But he's also implementing a... Let's see if I can get a screenshot. He's implementing this. So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to be able to click on a specific hero ability and pop it out and just have it like... I can drag it around with this, and I'll be able to drag it around to one side of the screen. And so I'm going to start doing a new show, I think, where I talk about the value of specific talents and download either games from Heroes Profile or games from in-houses or something, and explain like why I really, really have strong preferences for certain talents, because I think that people don't always entirely understand why I'm like, this is just usually better. And this will be a really clean way of displaying that value, or we're watching a game and consistently seeing what the talent is doing. So that's going to be pretty neat. Pretty neat. That's it. There's not that many questions. Let's just see how quickly we can get through them. And some of these was pretty interesting. So, like, is Chromie level 2 time trap talent the new meta? How much value is getting compared to the other options? I wouldn't say it's meta. Chromie's been played in 17 games so far this tournament. Anderhall Anomaly was picked 13 times, and Time Travel was picked 4 times. The problem with Anderhall... So I guess it is being picked more often than not. The problem with triple traps... Well, there's the one advantage to triple traps that's guaranteed to be good is if you put traps around in enough places, you get a ton of vision. And if people aren't accidentally hitting them with stuff, which usually comes down to draft, whether or not traps get accidentally hit by stuff, because some heroes have random abilities that are likely to cover the entire screen, like Joe Hammers, and some heroes just don't have that. So it depends. The downside is that unless you're looking at all 3 traps and are good with thinking about how your positioning is going to work, you frequently end up in situations where you activate a trap and it ends up like hitting an ally plus hitting an enemy. Like a different trap does something bad when the trap you were looking at did something good. And that's just kind of... I do think it is potentially the highest skill ceiling of the talents. Yeah, most of what we've seen that's completely insane for Chromie has not been... We've only had one loop game. It's pretty insane. It's not been specifically trap value. What I would recommend for the person who asked this question is, rather than asking a general question, try to pick a specific game where you want me to look at trap usage, because not every Chromie player is created equally in terms of how well they're using traps. And there are some games where this is just going to get absolutely no value other than a little bit of extra vision, and there are some games where it can completely turn a fight around. And it would be more interesting to look at the high roll and sort of demonstrate how that high roll occurred. Does that make sense? But I watched the games this weekend. I didn't see any particularly like, oh my god, that was such an insane triple trap. And I did some brief like fast forwarding through the replays, and I didn't see anything that was like particularly insane in terms of the activation. I saw a little bit of vision stuff, but nothing too crazy, honestly. So I think the answer to that question is we need more data, and we need more games, and we need more specific scenarios. Three-legged cat versus Surge Energy. Should this be a bloodlust game? This is what it is. Very early on. There's no way we played this many games this weekend, right? I shouldn't be on page 3. I'll cheat. Did I never label Surge Energy as a team? But their games are in here. Am I missing the Surge Energy games? There's no way I'm missing the Surge Energy games from Stats of the Storm. The only way I could be missing these is if they were never uploaded to the Raven Core thing, because I re-downloaded the entire replay pack. One second, guys. I'm gonna check the repository. Oh no, they're not. They're not in the Love the Weekly Content Cat. Thanks for putting some time in them. Yeah, glad you guys appreciate it. I don't know where these Surge Energy games are. Stack of Doom versus SE. Okay. Okay, well, I found the games. How are these not in the pack, though? They're on the Proton. They're on the Proton drive, but they were not. Did Surge Energy only end up playing 2 games? I'm like paranoid that I'm missing other games now. Surge Energy. Okay, Surge Energy got 2-0'd in the lower bracket quarterfinals. So Surge Energy should have 6 games, and I only have 2 of their replays. Were these other games not actually played? SL, it should be Stack of Doom versus Surge Energy, and then Three-Legged Cat versus Surge Energy, and then Deep Dive Extreme versus Surge Energy. So here's Deep Dive Extreme versus Surge Energy. I should have. I'm still missing Three-Legged Cat versus Surge Energy, which was Last Chance Group. Sorry about this, guys. I cannot believe. I don't know how these weren't downloaded. Because what I do is I just download the entire replay pack, and it's only the Surge Energy games that are missing. I have every other game, and they're all. I download the whole like zip file of all the replays. So I really don't know how these specifically got left out. Although I'm actually not seeing Three-Legged Cat versus Surge Energy in the replay file. There should be 3 games of Three-Legged Cat versus Surge Energy. Garden of Terror, Aldar Quest. Oh, this is labeled versus ES, not versus SE. Well, do I have Three-Legged Cat versus SE? I do have Three-Legged. So they should be in here. Maybe I mislabeled. Surge Energy is a different team somehow. Did Surge Energy like change their name or have 2 names at some point? What's a player name that's on Surge Energy? Dion? Never had this happen before, where it's like, yeah, ES is Exodia stack, but there's a. See, that can't be right. Okay, apparently somehow the Surge games got labeled as DDX games. I don't really understand how that happened. Do I have to? I probably have to go remove. It's possible some replays are missing from the thing, but it's really weird because I just download all of them. It's not like. It's not like I'm downloading the replays one at a time, mostly because that would be inconvenient. So Dion, Izzy, Leafy. Okay, so this is correctly labeled as being Surge Energy now. Surge Energy, Surge Energy, Surge Energy, Surge Energy, Surge Energy. Okay. I genuinely don't know. Sansa Storm has weird errors sometimes, but I don't think I've ever seen it do that. Is this the game? No. Let me double check. Which Three-legged cat versus Surge Energy. Garden of Terror. Should this have been a bloodlust game? Should Greymane have gone bullet instead of go for the throw? Okay, super straightforward question. I think Ancestral is honestly the main reason to pick Rhaegar, outside of the fact that he has wave clear. If Ancestral is countered by like enormous amounts of anti-heal, then you can pivot into Bloodlust. But in order to pivot into Bloodlust, you do need some sort of like burst save mechanic. The example I always use is there was a CCL game where anti-heal was taken into Rhaegar and they just went Medivh Bloodlust. And then they would portal onto someone in Bloodlust through the portal and just pop everyone. And they weren't worried about getting bursted out because they had the Force of Will from Medivh. Bloodlust is good in this comp, but like they have Bunker, I guess, which is okay. But there's no anti-heal. Like, why would you not just do that? When it comes to bullet versus go for the throat, I have opinions on Greymane that there's tech that we never see. So one of the things that happened a lot in HGC was when people went bullet, they would actually also go specifically running wild for the increased range, because this makes it so your E and bullet have almost the same range. So basically, if you're on the same screen as your tank, I'm exaggerating, but if you're anywhere near your tank at all, you'll be able to instantly bullet and then jump on the target and melee them to death. The concept you always want to think about, that I always like to think about, is softener versus finisher. So bullet's a really good softener in terms of just helping you blow up a tank, but it doesn't necessarily help you finish a target. So like the obvious thing is to pair bullet with last rites, right? You pair bullet with last rites, they both go on the same target. It only takes a little bit of damage to get from where bullet takes a target to the point where last rites will finish them. And that's like a good combo that can 100 to 0 someone. I guess they kind of have that. If the person's in a good location with scatter, then they can do that, and then they can play front to back. And Ragnaros is not the best frontliner, so it's going to be like Diablo out there on his own quite often. The thing I don't like about Bullet is they have Gust. So, I mean, trading Bullet for Gust is fine if you Bullet the Diablo and the team's like, oh my god, Diablo's going to die, and then you Gust everyone away. But yeah, I don't. They do have the Muradin to like sort of dive in, but your Hanzo's not going to dive in with you. So like, how often are you going to get a vulnerable backliner in range of the Greymane and get the go for the throat? I'm not sure. If they're definitely going to focus on killing Diablo versus diving in, and I think that playing front to back with their comp is better, because Hanzo then doesn't have to worry about going deep. They have the Blaze Bunker. I don't know. I think it also, like, this is Worgen build. Apparently, this has been meta in EU. People have like been going this. I don't know how I feel about Worgen build outside of double support either. The only time I've really seen Worgen build succeed really well is double support. So there's a lot of like talent decisions with the Greymane that I'm just like, I'm not sure how consistently they're going to be able to pull this off, or what exactly they're trying to do. And because I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to do, it's hard for me to be like, Bullet is better. Like if they're trying to play front to back and kill Diablo, Bullet was obviously better. If they're trying to dive in and kill backliners, then go for the throat is probably better, because it's a matter of like winning, getting people low and then popping them. But and like you'd think with Alpha Kill you're trying to kill tanks a lot of the time, right? As opposed to going Executioner, which is pretty much always going to proc off of the AoE slow from Earth, from Rhaegar's Totem. I don't know. I'm confused looking at it, and it seemed like they were confused in the game about sort of what they wanted to do. So maybe it's not just me. Three-legged cat versus Stack of Doom. Did the Dahaka Regan build actually do anything? That was an interesting question. Did a build do anything? We're of course comparing the meta build for the movement speed versus. Oh, this wasn't labeled. I do have a label Stack of Doom, right? Okay. Three-legged cat. Is it? Not this game, is it? No. Rhaegar was picked in pretty much every game. Oh, Cure went the build on Garden. Okay, three-legged. Three-legged cat versus Stack of Doom. This was game 5. This is not syncing.
The battle begins shortly, heroes. The gates shall open in.
So, quick review of Dahaka talents. Tissue regeneration, globes grant 10 essence. Every 50 essence collected permanently increases health at regeneration by 4 up to a 40, a max, and essence by 1 up to 10.
Let the battle begin.
Versus the move speed. So we're going to keep an eye on the move speed. I do believe that this talent is tracked. Maybe it's not. Maybe the actual. So I think we might have to actually look at his generic stats to see how much regen. Maybe it's not. Here always goes regen build specifically. Regen build theoretically helps you a lot more with staying active in lane, and the bonus essence is a little bit of extra healing in fights. He also does go Q16 because I think his argument is literally it helps you accidentally win games. To, like you get one good like in drag, you get a pick, like it's insane. But the thing is, movement speed helps you get better drags. So if that's his argument. And like nothing's. I don't think he missed soak there really. The movement speed isn't stacked up enough that I don't think it would have mattered yet. Very minor amount of extra health here than he would have had. Bro. It's nice that both of these it's not that both of these essentially are based on getting essence, so we can make a fairly one-to-one comparison about how quickly the quest is stacking up in both cases, right? Because every 50 essence collected permanently increases. Every 50 essence, tissue regeneration stacks up a little bit faster because of the globe part. So it's like you'll get an extra 30-ish essence per minute on average. It could be more. Pick up the globe. Nice.
The first seed is sprouted. Gather it.
Get digging 2. Team fighting over that camp.
My little seed is on the verge of sprout.
Is region not one of the stats displayed down here, actually? I always thought region was one of the stats displayed
Talent.
in the target panel. It's displayed over here. So it's not like we don't have it. Maybe you get that tongue, but it's like not.
That seed is ready for gathering.
He gets away from that gank attempt pretty easily. Even without. I don't know. I haven't really seen any situations where the move speed would have been dramatically different.
Choose a talent.
Oh, I may as well take the opportunity to announce this. BRB has specifically asked me to come up with some award categories that I will personally award. So far, he asked me to come up with like 1 to 3, and the player that wins the Cav award will get a small bonus from the prize pool. The 2 I've come up with so far that I'm very happy with are best wave manipulator, the person who did the best with like clearing a wave, like proxying a wave, or freezing a wave, or not clearing a wave because or clearing a wave and leaving the camp alive, something like that. All these things I talk about all the time for wave manipulation that we only very occasionally see people do. Prepping a wave so their team can push with it. I don't think we'll see any wave stacking, but if we see anyone doing correct wave stacking, that'll probably be up there. So keep an eye out for that. Just in case you're like, oh, this person should totally win from this. And the next one, and BRB actually came up with this, was best tapper. So I was watching the games this weekend and I was complaining that people were out of mana that I know for a fact are not tapping on cooldown on maps like Tomb. And I was like, people should tap more. It varies a little bit by map, but I mean, this is something that I specifically have. This is in here because I asked for it. So it's time spent at 20% mana or less. If you're below 20% mana for like an extended period of time, I don't like that, because if a fight breaks out, and this is gonna come up in the Mephisto analysis. If a fight breaks out, then you're good for like one rotation of abilities, and then you're done. You need to be consistently maintaining high mana. It matters more on some heroes than others. But then time spent with the healing well active and number of taps. Like, we're 7 minutes into a game. This theoretically could be at like if you tapped it like 15 seconds into the game and then tapped again at 2:15 and 4:15 and 16. Like this could be as high as 4, right? At the absolute limit. And there's no point in tapping if you're not actually going to use the resources. But frequently, like Hanzo is a really good example where Hanzo just runs out of mana in the early game constantly. You need to be pretty much tapping on cooldown as a Hanzo player. In HEC, there were teams that would like always pre-tap the well right before the level 1 fight, and it's essentially going in with a whole extra health bar. So maximizing tap utilization is something we're actually going to get a little reward for. That doesn't just mean tapping on cooldown, it means actually getting value out of each individual tap. But it also does mean tapping more, because if you or in a 10-minute game and you haven't tapped at all, that's definitely not optimal. And I haven't come up with a third one yet. I might not come up with a third one. I really want to make sure that every category I come up with is really, really good and is awarded. And it's for stuff that like consistently gets misplayed. I don't think. I mean, Kira's mega dead here, right?
You would best be ready to gather another seed, heroes.
Move speed doesn't do anything here. Right, with the Muradin just jumping over the wall, moving for the body block. W... Did he W wall underground?
You would best be ready to gather another.
No, he W'd for clear. I was like, there's no way. So he doesn't have W, and that means that he is going to just get body blocked to death. Even with move speed,
Your flowers shall
Yeah.
bloom again. Choose a target.
he burrows in. I'm actually a little bit concerned about this. They're winning the fight, so it's fine. No, because he doesn't want to... He wouldn't have wanted to move from the bush, right? Because he wants to cast it out of vision. So he's not going to use the move speed to run the Hanzo down there, regardless. That, maybe... The Rhaegar's mounted.
Fort destroyed.
No. So we haven't seen a ton of value from the regen yet, but we also haven't seen a lot of situations where the move speed would have been actively valuable. The problem is it's just like, it's Garden, you're the off lane. He's either digging into fights that are heavily advantaged, or he's just kind of double soaking. And outside of the one time he got ganked, his double soaking has been pretty interrupted, or uninterrupted. And he's not really trying to like get sneaky tongues on people or anything. Hogger's been mostly doing camp, so he's not even against like a melee hero. Hasn't been trading damage. Throwing here.
Another seed is about to sprout.
Could we have aggressively done more with them? We wouldn't have lost vision of the Muradin if we'd had the move speed right there. But I still don't think... I don't know if keeping vision of the Muradin actually matters.
It is time.
We don't have dig for a while, so we're waddling. This is another important thing. Where fights happen dictates a lot about what build ends up being on Haka. Regen is like, you don't need a bush nearby. Regen's always doing something. As long as you're taking damage, you're getting that health back. Move speed only does something if you're near a bush. And so depending on where fights happen, move speed build can do literally nothing.
The enemy's terrors have fallen.
Which makes it a little bit map dependent in terms of like what should be good in a lot of cases. Ideally, your team tries to take fights that are near. Right there, I think they could have caught up to the Hanzo with the move speed. Would that have mattered? Like, I don't think he's going to get a raw tongue on the Hanzo, but I also, like, his team wouldn't have been in range to follow up anyway. And right now we're getting a little bit of regen.
Your enemy has
We've been out of a bush for a long time now, so we wouldn't have move speed regardless.
That one's pushing up daisies.
We are at the cap, by the way. So we are at the, we have 49 regen total. We have the 40 bonus regen from the level 1. We're basically at full health because of the regen. We took like we took a couple thousand points of damage there altogether. Like right here, we tanked the wave for a bit. We're regenerating an extra 40 health per second. Here. We've been at this for 30 seconds, so 30 times 40, we have 30 times 40 additional health. Like, we literally would not be at full health right here and able to dig in aggressively if we weren't regen at 1. Arguably, you can say he wouldn't have tanked the camp if he wasn't regen at 1, because you don't want to take that much free damage if you're not regen at 1. But because we're regen at 1, we can take the camp. We're still at full health, and the wave is pushed up further. Maybe that's relevant, maybe it's not. We got a Stukov heal here, but we didn't. You guys saw it didn't heal him all the way to full. So again, we're back at full health purely because of a regen talent on 1. And we're not near a bush. So move speed would have done nothing. You can see his argument for the 16 right there. He's just trying to go for that max range stun. If he accidentally catches someone, like they definitely get the kill and get the keep for free. Not definitely because of Ancestral and Cleanse, but possibly.
Your terrors.
We're going 21st.
Choose a talent.
I also want to point out that I don't think a normal, like a speed build Dahaka would be doing this, because speed build Dahaka wants to play around bushes all the time, and if they're not around bushes, they're kind of sad. But Kira doesn't mind like walking up, eating a couple shots, seeing if he can look for the drag, because he knows every bit of poke he takes is going to be healed up in like 10 to 20 seconds just from his regen existing.
A seed has been planted.
He's trying so hard to spread the Q to everyone.
Isn't nature splendid? Gather that seed for me.
Call is made to back up. I like this call a lot, by the way. We go over this all the time on the stream, but there's certain situations, there's certain things you want to account for when you're trying to force a fight. And one of them is how bad are your lanes. If your lanes are bad and you force a fight, you're more likely to lose more from that fight if you lose. So, like, 2 catapults and a camp pushing top, 0-3 seeds versus 0-3 seeds, I'm fine with giving that seed when their top lane is in such a bad position. Really, really, really good call. And it's not like they have a talent to advantage or anything else that they can eventually like pressure with, right? It's just... And then here... I like this a lot too, where rather than off-laning, being away, even though he has a global, here is with team, and if they win a fight, he can global out. They're getting prio on the. They're getting heavy prio on the lane directly adjacent to the next seed that's going to spawn. So here, we've already lost. It's been okay. So now we're back in the bush. So we now have to track it for 5 seconds, right? It is 5 seconds. Yeah. So left the bush. So he's out of the movement speed now. He would have been able to go further with the movement speed. Now we're back in bush mode. Again, he would have been able to go further with the movement speed. So he actually would have gotten to the bush before the movement speed expire. But I think this exact same scenario still happens. How long were we? How long was Hogger just chilling in that bush? I think Hogger would already have been in that bush still, but he would have seen him go into the bush. We didn't see him go into the bush. I don't know how Hogger must have missed, like, traded behind himself rather than getting the wall stone. It's really unfortunate. Once again, we didn't end that fight at full health, but now we are full health. Regen. Adding up. That was a little bit spooky. Definitely would have been much safer there with move speed. I don't know. Like, this... The thing we just saw, where he went from this bush to this bush to this bush, I think the movement speed would have made a pretty significant difference in getting vision and maybe catching someone out. But outside of that, the regen's done a ton this game. In terms of just allowing him to show up to fights full health, allowing him to tank waves, and then still show up to fights full health, allowing him to deal with getting poked by the Hanzo. Like, in situations where we know the other level one would have done absolutely nothing. Movement speed there might have mattered. Right. Like, I think we can definitely dodge that Stormbolt with movement speed. I don't think we can get onto the point in time. I don't think the movement speed is that dramatically affecting it, and I'm not sure we would want to try.
Gather the seed before your enemy.
We haven't looked carefully at the extra 10 essence that you get. Once again, get absolutely chunked. He got absolutely chunked like 8 seconds ago, so he's had 8 times 40 bonus health regenerated so far. We're still getting poked. We're still getting this, regen. I think it's fair to say that if you're fighting around bushes, the speed is generally going to be better in fast fights. If you're ever taking slow fights, the regen is always going to be better, even if you're fighting around bushes. I think it's a pretty fair statement. So, what kind of comp you have is a very important consideration, and the map. Like, how many bushes are there that you're actually going to fight around? Because when you're sieging buildings on Garden, you're never fighting around a bush. And at some point on Garden, you're always going to be sieging buildings, or even defending against siege of buildings, because the objective sieges buildings, right? And there's no bushes near the buildings, right? That you're reasonably going to be able to be getting the movement speed from.
More fertilizer.
It's if speed build is better, speed build is only going to be better fighting for the seeds, not getting advantages from the seeds. Does that make sense? I have been pinged on the Ravencourt Discord. The replays were in fact missing. I am not crazy. Okay. The BRB must not have uploaded into the Proton Drive, but then he uploaded into the Proton Drive as I was complaining about it and double checking to make sure I'm not crazy. Easy. Yeah, what do you think? You've seen him walk into every single bush. There has literally only been one fight where the movement speed would have helped him because a bush was actually nearby. And you've seen him take, like, literally thousands of damage from camps and stuff and just heal it back up with the regen. And globes, to be fair. But the globe would have been, like, a universal. I don't know, regen build looked pretty solid here. And speed build did not look like it would have done very much. Has there been a time when the AA damage mattered? Oh, because he took Primal Rage for Essence stored. So this is essentially 12.5% additional damage because he has tissue regen. We haven't really seen him auto in fights very much. 400. That auto is 409. I'm actually kind of curious. Yeah, the minion would have killed it regardless. Movement speed relevant there. I think with the move speed, he barely makes it out of range of the Murikyu and doesn't get stunned. So all of this doesn't, literally all of that, like doesn't happen. He just completely dodges the Murikyu, I think.
A seed has sprouted.
It didn't kill him, but he was forced to use Essence. I remember thinking this was so awkward that Thrall was alone. Not alone, but like Thrall was up there on the wave side. Like I want to Hawk on the wave side. I'm curious trying to play around the bush for the baseline movement speed. They get the seed. And we dig into this bush. I think the movement speed definitely would have mattered here. Without the move speed, he's just never going to catch up to the Hanzo. Like, it's not physically possible. But if he had the move speed, there's a chance he catches up to the Hanzo and lands a drag. Like a non-zero chance. Whereas before, with like the reality of the situation, there was just there's no chance that he gets there. Does that matter? We got a little bit of extra A damage. You can see we didn't attack, like 3k damage to heroes from AAs altogether. We got more benefit from the basic attack damage to minions and captured mercenaries. This is basic attack. This has to be buildings, right? Drag damage to heroes. You're fine, BRB. I was just very confused. I'll just re-download the whole pack and make sure I have them all. Deal 27k with Essence Collection. Like we also it's worth noting he didn't fight very much. Like heroes hit with drag after selecting Feeding Frenzy. He only cast 6 drags that actually landed on someone in fights. Post 7. He cast 33 drags. Did he literally not hit an isolation all game? 0 damage to heroes with isolation. Yikes. Primal Rage bonus damage to heroes, 589. So this would be slightly lower when he was at max essence. He was at max essence for a lot of these fights. Quite a bit of increase here. I don't think move speed would have done much this game, and I think the regen did actually quite a lot. But yeah, he definitely hit Murrow with an ISO. Did he? Are you sure? Did Murrow die too fast? Murrow can die too fast. Because I believe isolation applies the silence and then applies the damage. So if you die in like the tick of silence being applied, how certain are we that ISO hit? I guess we can actually check. That could be a bug with Spazzo's UI. It's this game, right? Yeah, no. He had 12 seconds of silence. If he had like Dahaka has no other way of silencing someone besides isolation. So if he had 12 seconds of silence, that might just be a bug with Spazzo's UI. He cast isolation 6 times. Why is that showing up as 0? I'm gonna message Spazzo real quick. He had 4 ISOs for the full duration. Because he wouldn't have had 12 seconds of silence time otherwise. I've reported to Spazzo. Spazzo is currently adding a couple features and refactoring some of the code, apparently. So it's possible that there will be some more. Because it's Cure. I'd be very surprised if he missed every single ISO. Like, we saw him miss a couple ISOs. Like, he missed this one on Hanzo up here. But, but to answer the question about the regen build, which we were manually keeping track of, right? We were just like, well, he took this bunch of damage, then 20 seconds later, he's healed for 20 times 40 health. Like, that's quite substantial. I'll try to keep an eye out for bugs. Oh, God. I think Final Verdict is regen build did end up doing a lot that game, and I'm really not sure that the movement speed would have helped in any but like that one top right or top left scenario. This feature is not completely implemented yet, but Spazzo again implemented a new cool thing for me because people have eternal questions about Sylvanas, and I hate Sylvanas, so we're gonna try to make this as easy and objective as possible. So we've always had basic attack damage to non-heroes, withering fire cast, withering fire damage to heroes, withering yada 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 yada. We now have, you ready for this? Black Arrow's bonus damage to basic attacks against heroes. So if you auto attack a hero, this is the bubble heart game. If you auto attack a hero that has 3 stacks, this column will go up in value. If you Q a hero that has 3 stacks, this column will go up in value. And if you W a target that has 3 stacks, this column will go up in value. You can see it's not, and if you E a target that has 3 stacks, this column will go up in value. And I think this is, I'm not sure what this is supposed to be, but this isn't like completely implemented yet. You can see it's like not even labeled correctly. But it's going to make it easier for me to answer the basic question of would this kill have happened if Sylvanas had waited for 3 stacks? And that'll be one of those things where I can actually just pop the whole thing out. So here, linked not at 3 stacks. And linked only ever gets to 1 stack. So what are we autoing? We don't auto there, we're just backing out. We auto the totem to death. We get blinded, really important. We're blinded that whole time. So that was actually that's actually a really interesting kill. Or not a kill, right? The blind from Joe prevented us from stacking. And because we were unable to stack, we just hit our W and Q anyway. And Q prioritizes heroes, so it does like linked is the closest hero, so Q is hitting. But yeah, like literally just because of the blind. Rhaegar lived. If we had been allowed to auto, we would have gotten to 3 stacks, and Rhaegar would have taken literally 1 extra tick of damage from either Q or W, and we would have gotten the kill. But the blind made that not happen. Which brings me to an interesting point. Overwhelming Affliction has a slightly lower win rate specifically into Johanna than it does into other tanks. And I think a blind is a big part of the reason for that. If she double blinds you, there's a possibility that like you actually lose your stacks that you can get from autoing. Even if you are going to go like remorseless for the increased attack range, into Joe specifically, you might want to go with Might of the Banshee Queen, because Might of the Banshee Queen's advantage is the spell power, not the attack speed. And then you're still going Festering Wounds to apply. Do I think the Lucio saved the Rhaegar? By booping him? Joe is really good in the Syl, by the way. It's much harder for Sylvanas to do any damage to anyone pre-7 into a good Johanna. Because she just can't get stacks. And then even at 7, we're actually gonna, there's one thing I want to look at post-7. We have to watch the game anyway because of the No, I think that boop made him take more damage, if anything. Oh, Muradin's the Echo. Oh no. Oh no. I mean, maybe. I'm not used to seeing that talent. It's not exactly meta. To be fair, the Gul'dan randomly casting E also saved the Rhaegar. There was probably a way for someone to play better and get exactly 1 damage there. How much damage does Q do? So Q does 133 damage. The second Echo from Muradin was doing 88. So technically, if it came down to it, booping him out of the W, if it meant you wouldn't have gotten to boop, probably was more damage, and then you knocked him closer to both your DPS. But the blind from the blind from Joe was 100% of the reason. It was like 80% of the reason Rhaegar didn't die there. Blue could have played slightly better. So now it's a little different, right? Now we have Haunting Wave. Applies 3 stacks. Not that we'll be allowed to use it. See how hard it is? He did I don't think he's gotten to 3 stacks on a target if Joe is there so far this game. And E7 theoretically fixes the problem, but only if you can actually feel like you can E in. And Dracarius had to E out pretty much every single time. Are we staying here? Anyway. Okay, so now we're at 3 stacks on Joe. We lost those stacks.
My power wanes, Callum. Destroy their constructs. Reclaim the gems of my power.
Ah. And of course, did Bubble Hearth get more in value than Unstoppable would have? No. It's a Tomb game. It desynced. It is what it is. I did kind of want to watch all the way to the end of that because of the Bubble Hearth, but I don't really want to go through the replay. Okay. So very specific. Be like a cat versus Stack of Doom. Someone has a very specific review. They wanted to contrast and compare W build Mephisto with shield versus W build Mephisto without shield. I think W build Mephisto requires shield, or it's not W build. You're some sort of shitty, worse version of a build at that point. The way Mephisto generally works is Mephisto sucks until 16. He's just not the best hero in the game. At 16, all of his builds get substantial damage increases and get things that you then have to play around. Mephisto Justing coined the term demon for Mephisto. And basically demons are heroes that against death balls, against the kind of thing Justing likes to play with the double supports, anything that wants to just constantly be grouped, and by being grouped it can win fights. Heroes that do more damage in that scenario are quote-unquote demons. Justin coined this term because he got absolutely wrecked by W build Mephisto in a season 1 game of CCL. And Mephisto is a demon. So it's and so W build Mephisto does that. W build Mephisto is all about doing large amounts of sustained damage if you are against multiple enemy heroes. And one of the keys to being able to do that is you blink in, you do a bunch of damage, you get a massive shield, you can then blink in and do it again and again and again and again and again. As long as you're hitting enough people to get resets, you effectively take 0 damage after the first good E. And if you get low on the first E, your support can save you. But if you get low on the second and the third E and the fourth E, like your support's generally out of cooldowns. So that's why W is so critical. W4 is so critical. You can't go spite. You have to actually be hitting your abilities. So I kind of hate this exact thing right here. Like, this E was in vision of the enemy team. It was not in an area where our team was aggressively controlling. Our team was up here, aggressively controlling this corner. Not a question of if that was right or not. It's just where team was. You do not want to blink in situations where your team doesn't control your E location. Your first E has to be perfect in all cases. And this isn't even level 4, so he won't even have health regardless. You also don't generally want to blink onto people. E does technically do damage, but generally, if your W build, you're trying to blink into a position such that you can hit as many people with W as possible. If you blink onto 3 people, you can't hit them with W because they're on top of you, and W's a ring around you, right? So like that first E was behind his team, very safe. This E, like he doesn't get any resets, and then he turns around. You're chunked. You have to leave. This happened like right at the start of the game as I was watching it, and I was immediately concerned that this was not going to be a good Mephisto game because like that's a very important thing to be like constantly aware of.
Oh, you're dead. You'll get over it.
And even if he had been level 4, because his first W hit no one, he wouldn't have had a shield anyway, because you have to be hitting your Ws to have the shield, right?
You think yourself.
This should be a game where Mephisto is good, by the way, because Cassia's relatively short range. Zarya, Ariel, like, encourage clumping and deathballing. Like, this is a comp. I don't like it on the map, but this is a comp where Mephisto should be good. It's worth noting that Mephisto was first picked this draft, so Blue picked all these heroes into Mephisto like this on purpose. And now that we all are on the same page about what we're looking at, we're just going to fast forward through the early game. Mephisto is really good in Zarya because Zarya generally needs to stand still anyway. We now have the shield talent. I'm going to put this out there because, it is relevant. Razag runs out of mana a lot and misses quite a few games. We can see he already tapped once this game and then died. But like he's already very, very low on mana. This is a map where, like Dragonshire, maps where the objective spawns at a specific time and then the objective kind of happens in Shrines and BOE are like the best examples. You generally want to save tap for the objective happening so that you can fight, win or lose, go back, tap, come back, right? And have resources. Dragonshire is a map where, because you're spending so much time just clearing lanes and brawling over like points and moving around the map, you pretty much want to be tapping on cooldown. However, how much globe activity have we had? We've not been picking up globes. Okay. This is like significant. This is a significant problem. I know we died, but like the death timer wasn't that long. We've had a globe active for 10 seconds total this game. The minimum number of globes per minute you should be looking for in competitive, the minimum, not the average, the minimum is like 3 globes a minute. So even with a death, like an early game death should remove a globe. Globes last for 8 seconds, I believe. So mana is a problem. So again, this is at the end of its duration, Lightning Nova grants Mephisto a shield equal to 40% of the damage dealt to heroes, and that shield lasts for 5 seconds. Am I losing my mind? X088. Oh, there's the shield. It's like so small it's actually hidden by the white numbers of his health. Okay. I was like, did he get a shield? Is there? Okay. No, we're good. So yeah. Oh, if the shield actually takes damage, it counts as self-healing, right? Can we use the thing? We can use the thing. I really hate this, by the way. Like, he's on the Ariel. He moves off of the Ariel to swap, target swap to the Zarya, and then he, like, switches back. Ideally, you would want to be hitting both of them, so the question is, like, how do you hit both of them? And he starts in a relatively safe position here, right? So he probably could have E'd to, like, here, and had the W be arcing across both of them. That does put his E on cooldown, which he won't get it back from a 2-person W even if he gets the full duration. But like, I don't understand why he swapped targets, and like why I don't understand his movement at all. Because the goal is just have W on as many people as possible in many cases, not just have W on one target and try to be doing damage to that one target. Unless it's bugged. Damage to the shield should be showing up as healing too. So you can see he did, a little bit of damage. But again, it's not. Actually, I'm honestly not too surprised that EDC did more hero damage in that fight. Than the Mephisto and the Rexo did. Again, Mephisto, all his builds kind of spike at 16. The damage is not good, but you can see how he could have done slightly more damage than he did if his positioning with the W.
Be careful. Danger is near.
There we go. Also, I think, did he really take no damage there? Because damage to shield should show up as healing. Blizzard changed that at some point where heals act damage. Shields that were removed do get count as healing. In the official stats. I think that E is not far back enough, but this is a pretty good, like, we have Ariel on one side and we have Zarya on the other, so we're actually hitting two people. Again, I'm not, like, if the E had been here, or did we even need to E? Like, if we just walk up, can we just W all three? Arguably, we don't want to get gone on, and so, like, E-ing further back and walking in. That is one of the main reasons that this build does go Trickery, is A, you can E from further back and then walk onto people, but also B, the movement speed from Trickery allows you to keep more people in the W as they try to dodge it. I feel like we could be hitting three people here. But look at the shield. Like, that's a pretty substantial shield. It's 15 to 20% of his total health bar. We didn't get a full reset, but I think we could have gotten a full W reset if we tried to hit three people instead of two. We'll also get into some stuff at 13. We're just look at them. We just run at them. Notice we got an auto off there. Really important to notice we got an auto off there. Kind of fast forwarding through the rest of this because I almost don't care about the early game on Mephisto. I mostly want to make sure that we're on the same page about, like, can you see these things? Can you see the groups? Can you see the clumps? Can you see, like, how you can hit three people and hit inside the fight? It's all I keep track of. Like, the fact that you have to do things sort of we're looking at the entire fight and not just like one target. It's harder because then they can literally be on like opposite sides of your W and you still need to be thinking about it. In W build, should you always save Q for during after W so the CDR works on W? You can, yeah. you should basically be using Q as a tool to reduce W cooldown, because you're never going to Q while you're eat in and Wing, because you're constantly trying to move to keep W on people. And there's arguably there's a lot of situations where you will, if you're getting resets on your WE combo, you will end up not queuing at all. It's just not worth the time it takes because of the forced delay on the cast. Were we there that whole time? Just from an accuracy standpoint, we hit this. Were we on Zarya's hitbox the whole time? Yeah, see? You can't be doing stuff like this. You can't be doing stuff like this. Your precision in how your W works needs to be very precise. When Madara was playing in an EU tournament, he was one of the captains for the captain's draft, and he was playing on ping. The main thing I noticed about his Mephisto, and he pretty much always plays W build, was how less consistent he was at keeping people inside, like on the W. Because if you're playing on higher ping and people dodge, your reaction time is worse, right? And then we move back on. So I'm not saying this is easy to do, right? The fact that he moved a little bit forward there was actually like a problem. One of the key things that is really important to like make this slightly easier on yourself is the ring's range is 5.5. Your auto range is 5.5. If you are at max auto range, you are at the correct range to be Wing a target. So one of the things you can do is blink in so you're slightly further away, like just very slightly further away than the W. Auto them, and if they're a hero that stands still, you can just not move. Because by clicking on them to auto them, you forced your hero to walk up and start autoing them. And that you're at exactly max auto range, which makes you exactly max W range. In a situation like this where you're trying to like get a single target burst. And it's possible the Cassia's up there. It's possible he was looking at the Cassia and trying to keep the Cassia in, and he moved it too far to keep the Zarya in it as well. And again, it's just the difficulty of playing W build. You got to be looking at multiple targets and trying to keep them all. He definitely took damage there. Once again, I'm kind of curious if the thing worked correctly, because he should. Damage to the shield should show up as healing. No, the shield definitely took damage there. And it's not showing up as healing. Which is unfortunate. Means I have to find the actual stat category. Yeah, heroic damage, it's 1.2k. Oh, did it show up as self-healing? Am I just blind? I'm blind. Okay. So you can see he healed himself for 491 right there. And he could have potentially healed himself for more. Because every time we look at W and we see a way he could have done more damage, we have to remember that's also a way he could have gotten more healing. Or at least a bigger shield. And so if the shield ever completely breaks, we know for a fact that he could have done more. Right? Such a slick feature, actually. Shout out to Coffee for asking Spazza to add it, I think that's what Spazza said, is he added it for Coffee. Now we're doing the thing. Some stuff is happening. And here's like we're out of mana. This is really important. We're out of mana. It is worth noting that Furious Spark, every third hit from Lightning Nova against the same target deals 104 damage, and grants Mephisto 2 mana. So we're not only is our sustain tied into how accurately we're hitting this in terms of the shield size, our mana sustain in being able to do this over and over and over again is also largely tied into making sure we're hitting W on the same target over and over and over and over again. Like, everything comes down to just hitting W as consistently as possible on as many targets as possible. That's 100% of the build. Except for the 16. We'll talk about the 16 in a second. So now we have... So now we've had a couple of good Ws where we were still 4 to 5 seconds off, right? Now we're 13, we have Shard of Hate. This is the... You need a CDR talent in every Mephisto build. The 2 CDR talents he has are Spite at 4, which we can't go because we absolutely need Static Barrier. I think it's been very clearly demonstrated. Basic attacks against enemy heroes near the primary target. Activate Lord of Patrons against enemy heroes, reducing basic ability cooldowns by 1 second per hero hit. This counts the cleave. So if we hit one hero and it cleaves to 2 other heroes, we get 3 seconds of CDR. If we had a situation where we were like 4 seconds left on CD after Blinken, which we've had once this game, at least, and we just managed to hit this one auto and it cleaves enough, we have our abilities are reset. We can go back in. We can do the loop. You cannot effectively do just loop without a little bit of extra CDR unless you're actually hitting like 5 heroes, which should never happen. That should just not be a thing. If you're able to hit 5 heroes and get CDR without the 13 talent, then... But it also brings me back to my point earlier. We need to be autoing. And every time you auto, you essentially slow yourself to 0 because most heroes can't auto without moving, which is another reason that Trickery is required for the movement speed, because you auto and then you use the fact that you have move speed to keep chasing the target, and you catch up and fall behind, catch up and fall behind, and you keep in that little thing. Also really critical, again, to understand the mechanic of your auto range is W range. So if you're like, if someone's chasing you and you have the movement speed and you just clicked on them, like you're going to auto, and it's like doing it for you. So all these things tie together into stuff you have to be aware of to like maximize this build. A lot of moving parts. Like I don't like being this far up. I also don't like the fact, again, we're this low on mana. We're at 121 mana. W costs 50. Shade of Mephisto costs 35. We literally can go in exactly once, and then we're done. Maybe we get enough mana from the level 1 to go back in again, but we essentially cannot fight with mana this low. We actually just can't. We can't do the thing because it's not very bursty. It's a little bit burstier at 16, but W Mephisto is not very bursty. It's doing sustained damage while taking no returning damage because you're constantly getting that shield. Well, if in an average fight you have to do the EW combo like 3 or 4 times, you need to start the average fight with like 400 mana. We're at 120. This is extremely problematic. And you can see we're out of mana. Like we end up getting the kill on the Muradin, but like we can't contribute to this fight any further, really. Like we're stepping up here for auto CDR, which, like I just hate that we haven't. I hate that we haven't backed. And then we get in the Dragon Knight. Dragon Knight's okay. If you pick up Gloves in the Dragon Knight, it does go to your real health bar, so he will be able to regenerate. He's like generating mana right now. He will be able to pick up Gloves. Didn't pick up the Glove. I don't know. I realized it was a 13 to 12 advantage, but like one of the main things you have to do is really manage your mana as Mephisto with this build specifically. Especially because you're into res. Like even if you quote unquote win a fight and get a kill, you're gonna have to do that at least one more time to actually like get an advantage. And here, like, we're almost 16. We should just be leaving to soak 16, right? And again, we're out of mana. Pretty good here. We're hitting 3 targets consistently. We are getting the autos off. I think we could have autoed a little bit more there. We hit 16. We hit 16 and locked in, but we haven't... I play Spite, never heard about mana. I mean, honestly, if you picked up as many globes this game, even with, as has been picked up, like, even with globes, you would not have... only 1 minute 15 seconds spent with the regeneration globe active. Again, I believe it's 8 seconds of regen per globe, which means he's picked up... he died with 6 seconds active on a globe. So that's... in a 10-minute game, we have picked up 9 globes. Like, even with Spite, 9 globes is not gonna have kept you full on mana. We are below the required amount of mana to do the combo. Just barely, though. Like, 1 tick of mana regen. So now we actually have it. And that was a bad W. And here's the thing about a bad W that's not your first W. Even if you were full on mana here, you would probably want to back up. Even if you were full on mana, you'd be like, that wasn't a good W, I don't have cooldowns. We have to wait 6 to 7 seconds to re-engage. And if I was in this way, I'd be like, back off for 7 seconds. Like, we can't fight for 7 seconds. We don't have cooldowns. Really didn't feel like that was happening. You know, and we step up, we get a little bit of CDR. We have tap running. So we get the mana there. That was an okay W. And at this point, we can literally evaluate how good a W is by whether or not we got a full reset. Because at this point, we should ideally be getting a full reset every time we W in. Whether that's coming from the autos or the W positioning or like... It's like that started out pretty good. We were on 3 targets. We were on 4 targets, actually. We moved down. And now we're only on 1 target. Could we be on more than 1 target? I'm going to look at that again because I want to talk about the 16. Alright. When Lightning Nova's damage bonuses reaches 30%, enemy heroes within its radius take damage equal to 10% of their maximum health. An enemy hero anywhere inside the ring takes 10% of their health as damage. They can be on the ring or in the ring, it doesn't matter. So now you have a situation where even if someone moves closer to avoid your W, they're still going to take some amount of damage. So we're going to do the thing. And you can see that's a ton of damage, right? Contrasting, like, the fight's not actively happening. Most of his team is low on health and running away. But on a single W, which could have been better, right? We saw partway through the W, he was only hitting 1 target. He did 4k air damage. Two 2k hero damage that time? Here's sort of the funny thing. Once you've gotten a kill, the chances that you can do as much damage go down. Because less bodies means less damage. I really want him to back. I really hate the fact that he's hanging out at 20% mana for so long. Okay, he got up to like 60%. Didn't really need to E there. Could have just like stood there and W'd. Not a huge deal. And now it's like your whole team's backing. Like 2 people on your team have to back. Please back for mana. Please.
Take hold of the shrine.
Because I have games where I can show you Madara and Priz starting a fight at full mana, like literally 100% mana with W build and running Oom. They hit so many resets. It was in the double support, so like the enemy team was healing through all the damage being done. But this is, I mean, Zarya Ariel, right? Maybe similar-ish. You can hit so many resets and do so much damage that you can actually run it. Like, it is possible. So, like, in an ideal world, you would want to start every W build in Mephisto fight at full mana. This is a nice, safe W. And you can see the percentage damage working on the Muradin there, even though the Muradin isn't in the thing. That was an okay W. And now we just need to wait like 1 second. If we could land a Q, when did we Q actually? What second Q happened? Was anyone in range of that? I was like looking at the enemy heroes trying to figure out. Oh no, he started Q. Don't. Don't Q when you're in the E. He started casting Q before the E went back. Don't Q when you're in the E. Your job is to keep the W on as many targets as possible. If you Q, you aren't moving, therefore you aren't keeping the W on targets. Also worth noting, from 13 onwards, your wave clear goes up substantially with this build because you can just AoE cleave waves with your autos. Move the camera over. We were briefly on 3 targets. The Cassia moved in. We moved back to try to keep the Cassia in. That was, and look, that was beautiful. That was literally the best W so far. We were consistently on 3 targets. They tried to move in to take away our target. We moved back, kept 3 targets in. We got an absolute full reset. Our shield is massive. I'm actually gonna. $5.6k damage. Like, sweet. And you can see that W was so much worse. Didn't get the reset. Actually already Wing and eat in when it came up. That's pretty good. We've done 12,000 damage this fight. Cassia's counterplay to this, by the way, is really good, constantly moving into the circle. And Rune. And like, I'm not kidding, right? He started at that fight at 80% mana, did 3 relatively solid E's, and is Oom. Like, you really have to start at 100%. I don't like that at all. We did the full EW combo onto 1 target, and we knew it was going to be 1 target. Like, you can't be doing that. Your first E always has to be as good as an E as you. Your first EW combo has to be as good as you can make it. In all cases, I don't know. Like, the enemy team is here as 5, and we're brawling them as 4. This is like, and then I don't know. We're stuck here. The W hit was hitting no one. We're out of mana again. But yes, I will be uploading the series to YouTube. Actually, last week's are already on YouTube. They're just private videos. And that's game. They actually end up completely. They lose the game here. They just sort of. Mephisto is not alive. So we had one really good W, but the mana management not there. The self healing completely insane. right? You guys saw the size of the shield and how like good it was, but the mechanics of keeping people in W were relatively inconsistent. We weren't consistently abusing the auto attack CDR. Lots of little problems. I mean, it's a very hard build to play. And I think this is why people think it's bad, is because they're not really picky with their play about making sure that, because EU does not, this is not a meta build. EU's not really picky. So we have a different player who also goes W build. We're going to fast forward through the early game, so we don't really care. Very safe W's so far. But here, we have the W1, but we have Spite. And we are going to see him die. Being in like the second and third time in fights because he does not have the shield. Occasionally, I do want to make one mention about trickery. Occasionally, if your comp has a lot of slows, particularly area slows, like if you have a Rhaegar and the enemy team doesn't have a lot of movement abilities, you can actually pass up trickery for the slow E, and sometimes that can be relevant. Generally, you want trickery, but sometimes you can go to slow. That's fine. And that's just down to comp. Really, really safe. This is if you've watched a lot of HCC replays, this spot is actually like almost famous because this is a full line of sight blocker without being in the bush. If you tuck yourself in here really tight, there's a very similar spot on Tomb. So it is incredibly common for healers to stand here during like the level 1 fight. And you really want your first E to be really, really safe. Ideally, not even in enemy vision. That's the ideal. So like, I would have been even happier if he had tucked himself like slightly higher up. But you can see it's like good enough, right? The enemy team cannot see where Z actually came from. They can infer, like it must be here somewhere. Maybe he's actually even in this bush, but they don't know. Insane time trap actually denying any sort of W value. This kind of goes without saying, but you probably wouldn't want to play W build Mephisto if you had like an Anub or something. Any sort of, or like a Medivh. In those cases, you would probably want to play key build. Again, anything that takes bodies off the field, like you can actually kill someone and then be weaker in a fight because you have less bodies to get resets. It really is about doing as much spread damage as possible, which is fine into a comp that constantly wants to group and like that's their win con, but it's not so fine into. Again, Goody in the bush. They do have vision of it because of the trap, but I don't think he knows that. Not being super greedy there. But the problem is that would not have worked without Spike. Right? So we stay on the Diablo. Good movement to stay on the Diablo there, by the way. Gets the full reset, but again, I don't think he would have gotten the full reset without the Spite. I think he did pick up a globe in the lane before, like right before that happened. And it makes it look okay. It makes it look okay. Fast forward. The rest of the other game's pretty usual. Getting camps, getting 10. Maybe we'll see a really good triple trap this game. I will say that getting resets from globes makes early game macro very easy on Mephisto. Mephisto generally does not have very good wave clear. But you don't run out of mana if you're Spite, even if you just spam everything on cooldown, which you can do pretty aggressively because you have Spite and you get everything on cooldown back faster. So it makes like doing camps and stuff significantly faster. It is much easier to play Spite Mephisto the entire early game. Like here, this would be like impossible for a normal W Mephisto to sort of deal with that wave. But here, he just picks up the globe and his cooldowns come back. And now he can go bottom and do that, and he picks it up, and his cooldowns are back. It would not have been like he's actually double soaking. You can't double soak as Mephisto without Spite. Completely misses everyone. Like if he didn't have Spite, he like literally would not have his cooldowns. Problem is this team's sort of not here, so he's kind of like poking, and you need to know where the enemy team is before you E in as Mephisto, because you need to be able to again hit that big first W. So because they don't have any vision tools and they're playing relatively far back because people are dead, it's like completely impossible to do the thing. Q-Build is a lot more about single target damage. So if like he was exactly Q-Build right here, Q-Build would be a little bit better for just like hitting one person the way he's doing. Theoretically, into triple melee, he should be able to consistently hit like 2 or 3 targets once his team's actually here and they're actually fighting as a group. So we can see if that ends up being the case. Good cleanse. W on 1 target. Did that W hit anyone? Not that, so pause there. I think that, yeah, he was at 326 damage and stayed at 326 damage. So W literally hit no one. That's unfortunate. That should be a really easy, like, forced chokes like this with a wall should be like it is a curve, right? Like if you imagine Mephisto's W curving around it, it should be relatively easy to hit people there. But again, the 2 people were dead. It does get harder to hit people when deaths happen. That was pretty good. This is more of establishing a baseline for how good Critical FR is at hitting Mephisto Ws. Because if he's not good at hitting Mephisto Ws, the build just doesn't work. But if he was really good at hitting them, but then died because he didn't have the shield, then we're dealing with very different problems in terms of evaluating the replay. Once again, they sort of win the fight but lose the Punisher. The trend continues. And we're the other CDR talent at 13 as well. So we have just tons and tons and tons of CDR. Worth noting that hitting D.Va's mech does count as hitting a hero. So in situations where D.Va pops her mech, if you're hitting her mech plus baby D.Va, you actually could be hitting potentially 6 heroes on the enemy team instead of 5. We hit Diablo there, but we didn't move the W to hit the Brightwing until later on in the fight. We should have been moving the W to hit Brightwing consistently. Are we getting the autos? So assuming we still get CDR, and I think we've established that we can get CDR if we really need to. We did 2,700 damage, which was a little bit low. Honestly, that could have been, like we saw in the previous game that at level 15, we had E's that were hitting like 3 to 4k fairly consistently. So 2.7k is a little bit. It is against a harder team to get resets on, to be fair. But we would have 40% of that as a shield. We didn't get even with, I don't think we don't have a globe running, I don't think. So all of our CDR is legitimately the same as it would have been, but we would have had a 40% shield. So if we had a shield here, and we blinked back in, like how much damage do we take from 1331? We would have had a shield for roughly 900. So 1331 damage taken. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong. I keep doing that. I keep looking at the wrong. I keep like looking at Anduin's. So we were at 335 damage taken. We would have a shield for roughly 900. We went from 300 to 1413. We effectively would have taken 0 damage. 0. And we would have had an additional shield. Because we did another 1,000 damage, we would have had another 400 point shield. I think we still die there. But the reality is that we might have lived. Right? If we had... And we also didn't auto. It's really important to note that we did not auto. Oh, no, we autoed once. Did we auto the hero? I think we could have autoed better, though. Because I think this is a... Like, there's 2 heroes here, right? And I don't see the auto cleaving to the D.Va. So if we autoed once... Yeah, we could have had 1 more second of CDR. Okay, we were autoing there and we got polyed. Okay, I think we die there regardless. I think that second E was bad. I think we needed to stay out. But maybe, like, if we had 1,400 more health, maybe there's a chance. And if we get more CDR and we had 1,400 health, maybe we can E again on that baddie. That is a cat. Hi, Dogmatic. Say hi to the stream. Hi, hi stream. Oh, subtle point. Ice blocks suck for W Mephisto builds. Because again, you don't want bodies removed from the fight. It's not necessarily a huge problem that Chromie has an ice block, because we're trying to counter the triple front line. At least that's the way it feels. So this is actually really, we're running at the Chromie, but we're hitting W on the 2 targets in the back. And this is sort of the cognitive load thing you have to think about. You have to constantly be trying to hit as many people with W as possible, while also trying to focus the target your team can also like reach and is trying to kill. I need to back that up to the start of the fight and see how big our shield would have been. And did we die? This new feature that Spazzo added that I didn't know about is just incredibly helpful, by the way. 3.6k on 2 targets? 3.6k on 2 targets is pretty good. We didn't get a full reset, though. We probably should have autoed once instead of constantly chasing the Chromie. Even though we were trying to position. Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised. But... So we did 7.2k damage there. 20 sands is really good. I don't know if it's broken. That seemed... Okay, that was really questionable. Why are we doing that? Were they trying to hit the point? Maybe it felt like they were trying to hit the point. Worth noting that we've taken almost 2,000 damage. We basically would have taken almost none of this damage if we were shield. Because we took most of it on like the 2nd and 30. And our first E was so good, we would have had just a massive shield. we have hit an R. What do we do with it? Did we need to blink there? Blink, by the way, is an 18-second cooldown, and Lightning Nova is a 14-second cooldown. So if we needed, and Lightning Nova is almost up, right? If we need to blink, then blink. Blinking is fine. I'm not objecting. But if you don't need to blink, like I think you literally could just W here, then you don't need to, like it's easier to get the loop when you don't have to use the longer cooldown. I think he literally could have just W'd here. And it would have been as good. Because you can't see where the enemy team is anyway, so he's not Eing in to hit multiple people. Back up, auto the CDR. Okay. And that's like that's a pretty bad W. So once again, yada yada yada. We're at 2548. Actually. We did 1200 damage. Considering how few targets we were hitting, I'm actually very impressed we did 20 that much hero damage right there. 3712, we're backing up. Again, worth noting that the first EW combo, we took almost no damage. So we've taken 2.2k damage, but we would have taken essentially 40% less damage because we would have had the shield. We would have done 1200, so we would have taken 1200 less damage. Round numbers. It's actually 1200. It's actually more than that because I'm ignoring the 70 times 4. I'm just doing the 300. This criticism is very specific to this game, but we haven't seen Mal'Ganis or Leoric get vision, so that we can use Mephisto E over wall to light bomb the clump. Like, I think Mephisto is our best light bomb delivery system, outside of maybe Leoric E, although I think the Leoric E is usually very tight timing-wise. So I'm kind of disappointed we haven't seen that. Like, you should always think about what the best way to deliver light bomb is in a given comp, and take advantage of it. Yeah, the Chromie moved in there. It's so tough. I want to put this out there. I actually like both W and Q build on Mephisto. I just think Mephisto's W build does something that almost no other build in the game does very, very effectively, which is just hard counter death balls. On Oxygen, we essentially had an 85% win rate into Vala comps with W build Mephisto, because every Vala comp in some way ends up being a death ball comp. And it's with the shield 4. We didn't play Q build because neither of our Mephisto players knew how to play Q build. I think Q build is totally fine. It's just good against very different things. And the mechanics are very different. So I think people in EU particularly think I think Q build is bad because I think W build is good. And I'm not really binary like that. It's they can both be good in different scenarios. Yeah, the Chromie moving in there. Yikes. If we weren't Spite, we would never use W like that for PvE during the defense, because we would want to make sure we have it. But because we're Spite, we're going to have a way to get the cooldown back. Alright, we're alive. This game goes on for quite a while longer. Mephisto 20s, by the way. Unless your initial E is... Your first E should not get much movement value under any circumstances, because again, your first E should be relatively safe. Your second and third E, however, if you have shield, Mimic can get insane value because you can end up in a situation where people try to dodge out of your W and end up walking into your clone's W. I am going to tell you that I do not think Mimic is very good if you're not shield 4. Because you're never going to be able to safely aggressively E like that, where your shade is like in the middle of where the enemy team is. That's just never going to happen. So we'll pay attention to the Mimic value. The other game didn't hit 20, so I couldn't really talk about it, which is a shame because Mimic with the shield is potentially very good. Again, after your first E, you can move up and start doing things a little bit differently because you have that massive shield. 0 Mimic value, obviously. Pretty good here. We stick on the Diablo. We like the way the Brighting's moving. We can't be hitting 2 targets anyway, so we're forced onto 1 target, which is deeply unfortunate. But we do correctly pick the Diablo. We have the percent damage that is the best target, and so like here, yeah, I know. I think the average number of sacks the Anduins have been getting in this tournament is like 2. It's not great. So we'll look at this fight. I actually don't. Again, I don't like these E's where our tank has an established vision of the enemy team. This is relatively free to do. And again, because we have Spite, we can sort of just spend our cooldowns. It's not the big deal. But if we were shielded 4, we wouldn't want to do that because we would just never get a reset. We would have a shield for 40% of 1580, which is roughly 600. And here is where, like, that Mimic, that aura, if we get, if we trigger our 16 over here, the Mimic will trigger it, so the D.Va will take the percent damage. And so we did 1,300 or 3,300 additional damage, a little bit less than that. We would again have that massive, we would again have that, 40% of that is a shield. We would effectively be over our max health. I don't think we could have actually. I don't think we could have stayed on the meth and hit the braving. So I think this is actually as good as it can get. But that's fine. If we're in a situation where we can literally stand still, you know what we can do? We can auto and get more CDR from the 15. Yeah, we did 4,000 damage. We would have had a massive shield. Not very good at chasing. Like, we kind of definitively won that fight, right? So we're going to fast forward. I like this decision, by the way, to clean up, like, to 39 it and then clean up the map. I actually think they end up capping it too early. Because I think that bottom fort being dead bottom fort being dead for them but alive for the enemy team means that there's a catapult every 3rd wave, and nothing is counteracting that catapult. And the wave is not pushed out enough. I actually would have preferred if they had waited even longer and pushed their waves out more. And dealt with this middle camp that got capped. Like, fix all the lanes. But they told New York to cap it. New York capped it. Like, I don't think fighting in and getting a single thing, like a single Tychus Grenade is guaranteed to one shot at this point in the game. Like, they can easily get one. So, like, I like the initial idea. I don't know why they didn't follow through on cleaning up the lanes. When you're in this position, you want to make sure the sidewall's getting killed. In general, you don't want both of your frontliners on the same side of the fight if you can help it. So, like, I kind of wish that Mal'Ganis was over here if Leoric's gonna be hitting the wall. I kind of don't want either one of the melee hitting the wall though. I just like chill out to the side, let a range do it. It's a small thing, but you do need to kill the sidewall for vision and access so you can get kills. The skirmishing is over. The fight is about to start. Oh, Mimic does give you some PvE value, regardless. Something to think about. In sieging situations like this, for example. Pretty bad W. We only did 639 hero damage there. We must back up. Like, we can't fight this even if we wanted to. Because we have to clear mid. Which is why it's so bad, right? Even if they had won a fight there, and like got a pick and they had a temporary 5v4, they would have been on a clock to get even more value from that fight. Not necessarily guaranteed. Much better W there. 1500 damage. Would have had a pretty substantial shield. It's interesting. They essentially can't fight that camp because they're clearing mid. So the decision not to clear mid before they cap the Punisher essentially lost them that camp. And lost them the opportunity to fight over that camp. And that's a pretty good place for Mephisto to fight, right? Lots of little fight spaces. It's harder to dodge the W. We're gonna just check how much shield he would have gotten in that situation where he literally almost died. So we're here. Mathiel was in the bush. It's weird to me that Mathiel was in the bush. Mathiel can't exactly like 100 to 0 someone by himself. Brightwing Poly was a little bit late. We didn't do a huge amount of damage. The shield would have done a little bit. Malf just dies. Brightwing died for trying to be on Malf. Wouldn't have gotten a ton of value from the shield before there. Just sort of a random thing that happened. I swear there's a whole fight happening up there. I swear to God. There's a whole fight just like up there. He has 439 stacks, yes. Huge mimic value. Like actually huge mimic value. And this is what and he would have just like a massive shield right now. Like an absolutely massive shield. I really hate that they're all on the shrine. Did he really only do? Yeah, the W really only did 1,000 damage. Which would have been some shield, but not really enough to go back in. To be fair, they lost the Tychus. So it's like... I don't know what these W's are. It's like they're not even intended to be hitting people. He's just dead. So in some cases, we got some slightly better Ws there. We definitely died from not having the shield, and we definitely had situations where we had the combo back up, but we couldn't go back in because we didn't have enough health. We did not do a very good job of picking our terrain to fight in. Like we really would have loved to fight here, and we were clearing this wave with autos. Tormented Souls got buffed essentially. I literally think 4-man Mouth was always an insanely good hero. I think he's just relatively hard to play in the offlane because he's somewhat gankable by certain styles of comps. But you're not really worried about getting ganked in the 4-man. And anytime Tormented Souls is good, you should see a massive uptick in Mouth on Shrine specifically because Tormented Souls is really good at securing an entire wave of monkeys or skulls on Shrines, depending on which region you're in. So that's sort of W building system. You guys can see how massive the difference is going shield versus not going shield. Someone actually asked the question, would W build be stronger? Because I don't consider it W build if you're not W4. I do think W4 would have been very good there, yes. And I think it is just hard to get the resets. Like it's hard to have an awareness of all the positioning and consistently get resets, but it is doable. How do we feel about Mosh this game? Three-Legged Cat versus Stack of Doom. I actually don't even need Spazzo stats to really answer this question. Sort of walk it. So here's my thing about Mosh versus Stage Dive. Even if I'm playing ETC main tank, if I'm in a situation where the offlane has a winning matchup, or ETC has a winning matchup in the offlane, so Dehaka, Blaze, Yrel, those three, I want to put ETC in the offlane post 10 regardless if he stage dive. Because he has clear at 7. And then he sort of main tanks from like 1 to 7, and then he has a little bit of, and then he has the wave clear talent, and then we swap it. And then we swap, and then at 10 you can join fights, and it's great. We actually did this in CCL. Red Robot was an offlane player at one point, so he knew how to play offlane in general. And Nasmus is just really good at the game. So we, like, the swapping was relatively effortless for us. We didn't really have to like do much. But here we're just offlane the whole time, which is fine. Do it. Do it, Kira. You know you want to. Ideally, Hirath would W that. It is a little bit harder when Kira's coming out of the bush. I'll show it for you. So Yrel's E has a hang time. Of 0.625 seconds, no matter what the travel distance is. So if you do it in place, it's 0.6. So if you start, and arguably, the cure is right here, right? Ideally, you want to do it from absolute max range if you're doing it from a bush, so as much of the animation as possible happens in the bush. So Kira doing it from here is actually substantially different from Kira doing it from here. And I think the max range you can do it from is, and still hit the wave, is actually like here. Although it looks like he's actually trying to hit mostly the front line of the wave plus hit ETC. So like, I have a burning hatred for Echo. Oh, wow. Hirath moved his camera down as... That's deeply, deeply unlucky. So ideally you want to interrupt Yrel's E's. Okay, we're just not doing it. Okay, so we don't know the magic. He's just saving mana. No. Like, it's actually so important that you interrupt all of these E's, especially because Kira is E7. And, like, you're giving him a reset every time you fail to interrupt it. It's problematic.
For the glory of the our battle cannot.
I will say we are the recently buffed Auto 7. Technically, this does give us slightly more wave clear because we hit the wave harder. If you're offlaning on ETC, I genuinely want you to go with clear talent. I know people hate Echo Pedal. I think Pinball Wizard is consistently screws your team. I've just seen it happen too many times. So, like, I really just want you to be Echo Pedal. That's help you do, like, this camp died faster because of Hammer. So, like, here, we're now in a position where Urel's bottom. And we could clear the wave and stage dive top. And we could have a brief 5v4. We're never going to do that with Mosh. We're never going to have a situation where we're going to have a 5v4. But we could have situations where we find an isolated pick and just single target Mosh someone and get the kill, right? They have relatively limited Mosh interrupts. They have Hanzo Arrow, Urel W, she's very careful. Kind of Leyline. It doesn't actually interrupt Mosh, but since it stasis the DC, everyone can walk out of it. It doesn't matter. And then we're in queue. So really, it's just Rhaegar that can't interrupt Mosh. It's not really the same because Diablo always flips the target directly behind him. W, you have to predict how far the knockback is going to be. And the distance of the knockback changes, and the reliability of a knockback changes a little bit based on your level 4. Dignitas was pretty good at, like, throwing Tyrande where the ETC W was going to push the kill target. But it adds a layer of complexity and raises the difficulty of the execution to go pinball, in my opinion. And if you have a second, like if you have a follow-up CC to ETC slide and your Pinball Wizard, the window for Pinball Wizard's damage will expire generally before that second CC gets applied. So you have to W them into the CC. That's just how it has to work. And it's just... So, this is an okay rotation. We can leave now. So they kind of won that fight even without stage dive, but ETC could have actually been there with stage dive. The reason this question got asked is apparently Dino said that the later the game goes, the less awkward not having stage dive is, which is kind of true. You're also giving up stage dive light bomb. Stage dive light bomb is difficult to see. You have to start casting light bomb on the ETC at like the last second of stage dive cast. But the only reason that combo was ever even played in CCL was it was being played on main tank ETC, where the tank is already with the group. This is offlane ETC. The tank's not going to be with the group. So you're probably never going to do that combo in this context, even if the ETC is stage dive. Because it's better for him to be hitting a side lane, make sure that wave is advantaged, and then fast rotate the fight using stage dive. So we're not really giving that up. Missed the slide. I will say I'm actually impressed at how quickly Hammer-On is clearing waves. Like it's clearing waves decently quickly. Hey look, we W'd someone's jump. And it's a harder jump to W than your else.
There is no escaping justice. Choose your talent.
Thanks. Here, I didn't get a reset because the ley line hit the target. That's really funny. 224 I thought that's a chunky auto. That's a good amount of damage. Did anyone else wish that he had just moshed the Muradin? I mean, we didn't know. We saw one person like way far away on the top side. We didn't know where everyone was necessarily, but I guess you assume the Medivh's are like hovering around somewhere. You probably won't get the one shot. So we've had one really good opportunity to use stage dive, but we did end up winning the fight regardless. And he like literally just walked up and was like, "Oh, you guys don't need me more," and then left again.
I'll be with you shortly. Be warned, allies. I move to new ground.
Leech value, by the way, from level 1. We're healed to full off the wave by doing this. It'd be better if we had healed to full off the wave and cleared it with a different level 7. Is what it is. Honestly, all 3 of ETC 13s are good. It just depends on the rest of your build. Like, I do not like Encore with Mosh because I have seen too many competitive games where the amp knocks people out of Mosh. Because one of the most common things to do in competitive is be a frontline ETC. People go on you. You double them away. You start walking away from them. And they're like, "Oh, he's fragile. I'm gonna chase." Da 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 da. And then like you turn around and slide them and mosh. But because you W'd for your self peel first, there's an amp. And I have seen that amp knock people out of mosh way too many times. So I like if you're mosh, never go Encore. I'm just gonna, if you're mosh, never go Encore, or at least accept the fact that a very basic common play pattern will screw you. Mic check is, in my opinion, unpickable without loudspeakers. But if you're going loudspeakers because it peels for your team really well, and peeling for your team really well is one of the main reasons to pick EDC, then you should be going mic check with loudspeakers. I actually cannot think of very many games where I'm going to go loudspeakers and not going to go mic check. Particularly because it also gives you higher uptime on your armor, which gives you more effective HP. And then Face Melt is really good at dealing with heroes where you only have to bounce them once because they only have one gap closer. And if they gap close your team and you peel them off with Face Melt, then they're just never going to catch up if your teammate is then walking away. So, depends on the rest of your build. The higher ETC's trait goes, the higher ETC's trait armor goes, the better the combination of loudspeakers and mic check is, by the way. I think one of the reasons that people really started hating playing ETC was they were going that build instead of going move speed or crowd surfer when he was more fragile. Because when he's more fragile, he needs that higher level of utility. But if he's more survivable, he can just spend his life booping people away from his team and be fine. I will say that we, like, the CDR is useless if we don't actually mosh. We've not done a lot of moshing. That's just not how you. That was not how you play. Like even if you want to force the fight here, like we're down to talent here and we're defending against the mortal, so actually trying to force the fight is dangerous and really bad. We want to sit in this bush until we are gonna go in. This would be true regardless of if we were offlaning to see. I will say that stage dive is really good defensively in situations like this because you can stage dive the wave and it just clears the wave, which is so much easier to defend without a wave doing damage as well. So we want to stay in this bush. Stay in the bush, stay in the bush, stay in the bush. If we're going to walk out of the bush, we are walking out of the bush because we are going to do WQ. We are going to try to walk behind someone, W them into our team, and then Q. We do not want to do this until our team is ready to fight and has cooldowns. Li Ming just orbed, so she's like 8 seconds away from a normal cooldown. And we think the enemy's actually like overextending. Because we're down on talent too, right? We need a huge positional advantage to win a fight. So coming out of the bush is like right. We dodge that. Like here, we're not going to be able to get the position we want. We will not be able to walk behind someone and W them, so we just slide out. We're done. We tried, it didn't work, we just slide away. We slide in and die. And we deserve to. That was a terrible slide. So we're up to a point. We've now taken Encore. We've effectively gotten no CDR from Encore because we haven't actually moshed. We've had 3 solid stage dives that would have had a pretty good impact. And instead we have not hit R at all? Question mark? Did I miss a mosh? And that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad to be in a scenario, especially since we also baked our 13 into this. This is like objectively terrible decision making in terms of value gain. Mosh is insane, so there's a possibility that like there's an insane late game Mosh that gets a ton of value, like single-handedly wins the game. But would we have been in a position where we needed insane Mosh to win the game if we were stage dive? Would we be? I don't know if that was intentional, but eating the arrow there was really good. It looked intentional. It looked like he was thinking, oh, arrow is going to come up to follow the ley line.
I shall land in a moment. Look out. That area is unsafe. I will deliver.
I don't think they want to portal aggressively. Both their frontliners have mobility. I think they don't need aggressive portals. And arguably using aggressive portals is bad. So if it is stopping them from doing that, when that's a bad thing to be doing, that makes Mosh worse. Wow. I can feel Cure like complaining that he used his ult and got ancestral. You can feel it. Cure hates getting healed on Yrel when he's using his ult. I'm doing good. Joyke, how you doing? Once again, we're getting CDR for an ult we've never used. Legitimately, I think he could have just moshed for the armor there at some point, maybe. I don't know. It's not a very good ETC game. We are not playing ETC particularly well. We didn't counter. Like, look at that. Look how much damage he absorbs just by moshing for the armor. Is that the only mosh in the whole game? Yeah, that's the only mosh in the whole game because they lose the game here. Yeah, this is on the current patch. So, Stage Dive was definitely better that game. Like, and it was not particularly close. Particularly, every Medivh comp is a death ball. And the more stuff you have to, like, global, the better. Also, like, the more wave clear. You probably wouldn't get too much value into Kira specifically. If Kira notices that you're rapidly clearing waves and, like, pushing in minions to buildings. But that was definitely not the pick, that game. But there's also, like, I lost track of how many little things I criticized about ETC there, if I'm being honest. There were a lot of little things that need to be fixed in order for DC to be a good pick there. It's not just the ult choice, it's a lot of the play was not correct for the matchups and for the reality of ETC is sort of helpful. DDX versus names are overrated game 5. Almost done, chat. Almost done. We literally only have one question from the next game after this game, and this game has 3 questions, all of which will be pretty easy to answer, and we just fast forward through the entire early game because questions are: Light Bomb seemed low impact. How would Salvation look this game? So we just need to get to 10. Did Piercing get any value on Hanzo? So we need to get to 16. And holding top and grabbing boss in the mid game seemed wrong. Even still, was there a way for or names are overrated to translate into more value? Posturing for mid next, perhaps. So we have a very boring, not boring, but we have an early game to fast forward through because it's not relevant to our analysis. I guess we should actually swap to the Anduin. Once again, I'm going to say it. We do not have a good Light Bomb delivery system. Our best Light Bomb delivery is Mura Jump, but that means Mura has to be playing out of vision. And Thrall or Dahaka have to be essentially doing the actual front lines, which is fine. They can both kind of do that. What is the hardware bottleneck for fast forward? I think it's hard coded. You can't fast forward faster than 8 times. Like if you look at the things, 8 times faster, and then it stops. I'm hitting the plus button, and it will not fast forward faster. I think that if you click on a thing, it still has to fast forward through the whole replay, and it can be fast forwarding faster than 8 times. And I believe that is CPU speed. But in general, using this and like clicking to fast forward, parts of the map can unload and like the textures are gone forever, and lots of other things can get like very buggy visually. In general, I prefer not to click on the track button to fast forward for that reason. It still does happen sometimes when I like B, and it does happen more on some maps than others.
Be ready. The altars are rising.
I have noticed. Definitely happens more on towers and sky in my experience than on other maps. If that arrow had hit, Light Bomb would have been an okay follow-up to it, but I don't think that arrow is very likely to hit because it's just literally in vision. Okay. Everything that can interrupt salvation is on cooldown. Yeah, everything that can interrupt salvation is on cooldown. So if we just salve here, we can just keep fighting. Would Dahaka have lived? I'm amazed we don't Desperate Prayer the Dahaka, actually. Like, he's obviously super dead. We don't... Pull's available, we don't pull him. Are we... I guess we're just very focused on living. Yeah, I mean, Salvation would have done a ton there. We Desperate Prayed ourselves under our tower after the chase was basically over. Thanks. No Pierce stacks, by the way. Okay, we light bombed Muradin and then we pulled him out. Okay, so huge light bomb value. That's not how you want to be doing that.
Your strength is inspiration.
Did we just prepare for sustain?
I knew you wouldn't be defeated.
I guess we were legitimately worried about the Thrall dying. That's interesting. I'm not usually like concerned about a Thrall at 75% health. Just because Thrall has so much self-healing. Generally speaking. I mean, I guess he got chunked afterwards, so there's that.
Choose a talent.
I mean, he's at 75% health. I'm not... Once again, just arrowing and vision. I don't mean to be mean, by the way, to like every single Hanzo player on the planet. But every time you arrow and vision and I notice it, I will call it out. Please don't arrow and vision. Arrow shot in vision will basically never land against a certain like level of player. And at that point you're just like wasting the button. Sometimes you have situations where it's in vision, but like they're set up by like a VP or a ley line or something that's different. There are exceptions, but like I mean, so far light bomb value pretty minimal, but we aren't really like focusing on the one hero that can actually deliver it and trying to start fights with it and positioning around that as an expectation. Peeling light bomb. I hate peeling light bombs. Once again, everything that can interrupt salvation is on cooldown. We could have saved pull, walked up and south. No pierce value. The way this game actually went, Salvation already would have been completely insane in this game. Malf can technically interrupt it with Root, but only after 1.5 seconds because it has to sleep you. Chromie can't interrupt it at all. Blaze can interrupt it with E, and Joe has 2 interrupts, and Genji can't interrupt it at all. If Malf had thought about it, maybe he can Talent Dream. But the way they're doing their thing, where they're blessed into pull, into lazy, into root, it's a pretty free salvation game.
Justice has been met.
Like, honestly, and I remember watching this game. None of the light bombs are good. They're all bad. That's true. They did. Blue hit 10 first, and Malf had already picked his ult. So
Choose a talent.
Pierce. Yeah, I mean, I think Salvation would have been better this game. I think Light Bomb could have been okay if the Muradin and Anduin had really good coordination and vision play, and Muradin was like actively jumping over a wall. But the way it actually went, no sir. No sir, Bob. Okay, Hanzo has locked Pierce, so now we can pop this open. So scatters that hit any hero 4+ times, scatters that hit any hero 5+ times, 6+ times, 7+ times, 8+ times. I don't believe there is specifically a pierce column for how many times. So you have to sort of infer how many times a pierce happened. Yeah. It's been a while since I had to look at this manually, so. We're now paying attention to the Hanzo. Also, this boss question is referring to like the mid game, and I feel like the mid game is over. Does anyone else feel like in my mind the early game is like 1 to 7, maybe 1 to 10, and then like the mid game is like 7 to 16, and then 16 plus is late game. I don't know if anyone else defines it that way, but in my mind, like those are the stages. So like this is already late game, and we're not to the boss question yet. Middle of the actual game, maybe, but like. Terrible item. Am I not locked onto Hanzo's camera? I swear I'm locked. Okay, yeah. Arguably, so this isn't specifically about the W, but arguably the fact that the wave is more clear here than it would have been is a little bit of Pierce value already, because Pierce does interact with the Q4 to clear waves faster. But no Pierce value from the W there. The arrow is. I don't think that matters. Well, actually, wait. Would that Pierce not have gone through? Yeah, see, he does the thing. He does the thing where he pierces. This is the main reason Pierce is good, by the way, is it allows you to much more easily land Ws by piercing through a target and hitting the wall behind them, but then he messes up the angle. So that was, I mean, ideally he would miss the W there, right? I mean, you can miss the other one too. The other one can get just as little value if you're bad at using it. So far, the value of Pierce has been purely in PvE. There was a potentially valuable W, like over on the Joe, that he would not have been able to hit all 7 arrows on her, but he then missed it. So Pierce, a little bit of Pierce value right there. I doubt that was good. I guess I should. So we're at 9411. Still at 9411. PvE Pierce value. I could probably did that camp a second faster, maybe more. So far, all of the value from Pierce has been PvE. And again, so this is the boss call. Holding top and grabbing boss in the mid game seemed wrong. Even still was there. So I don't do boss. The only reason to do boss on Towers of Doom is if it changes the shot math sort of immediately. Like you're at 8 shots remaining and there's a single altar phase coming up and you do boss and now the altar connect. In general, it is better to be soaking than doing boss to get a more of a talent advantage. B, it is better to be either taking or defending buildings, because the more building damage that has happened on the map, the more likely it is that you 6 cap and the game just sort of ends. They have bottom. It belongs to them. They could be potentially getting 3 shots in. I think the argument that they're making here, and it's the only one that I can think of that makes any sense at all, is if we go bottom and fight them trying to force their shots in, that's an even talent tier fight. We don't want to take an even talent tier fight. My counter argument to that is they could be doing top camp, which puts on more pressure. They could be pushing mid and like knocking out the walls. Like this wall's already dead, but mid wall's alive. Like if you want to trade bottom fort for mid wall, half of the fort's health, and top camp, and you're soaking that entire time and getting all the XP from both of these lanes, that's not too bad. Like honestly, that's not the worst decision in the world. But I hate taking the boss here. And honestly, I would prefer they were just, especially with the global from the Dahaka, I wish they just stayed bottom and Dahaka had double soaked. I will give you the exact number. So current mercenary experience is 732. They have 1227. So at this level, the boss was 500-ish experience. It's worth 5 minions. Less than 5 minions. And 4 shots. They probably didn't actually miss any waves doing it. But yeah, the only camps in the game that are worth doing actually for the experience are the turret camps on Volskaya and Hanamura, and the vision camp on Hanamura. Those camps give outsized amounts of experience. They're also worth doing on the Raxus Outpost, the ARAM map that has the turret camps. You can actually get a substantial XP lead if you're doing both turret camps. And here we end up grabbing top, like we end up doing my thing, but delayed by like a substantial period of time because we did boss. And this is pretty good because we didn't know this at the time, but the next altar base is top. So like, it's pretty good. But then we're trading. We also leave it at 1 HP. Leaving it at 1 HP only works if you leave the wave alive so that their wave pushes it out. I do wish people left buildings alive at 1 HP on Towers of Doom more often, but you got to manipulate the wave for that to be good because you don't want your wave to just walk up and kill it if you're going to do that. And now we're in this position where we're like trying to get bottom back, and we're having to fight over our camp in a disadvantaged position when we could have been in a massively advantaged position. And we're still even talent tiers. Like we didn't actually, ooh, pierce value. Wait. We're at 9411. Still. Okay, so that single scatter hero hit Joe over 8 times because of the piercing effect. It's a lot of damage. I think that's still less damage than Giant Slayer would have been, and we just scattered it off the wall, right? We didn't actually use the pierce to like pierce through her and bounce it onto her. So yes, pierce got value there. Giant Slayer would have been better. In the exact same, like, 1-for-1, what hit and what didn't. Not to mention the fact that our auto would also be doing more damage. Right there, we could have pierced through the Joe. I don't know why we didn't. One of the main things, this is not specific to, that's a good scatter. This is not specific to any 16, this is specific to Never Outmatched. One of the main things that you really need to be doing is Hanzo. What makes it so difficult? W is a very hard to hit skill shot. You need to be spamming the shit out of it when you go Never Outmatched. Like if it comes up, you should just be launching it, launching it, launching it, launching it. If you're not W7, it's more responsible to hold it in many cases. But yeah, one of the things that makes Hanzo very difficult is you have a very short cooldown, difficult skill shot, and you have to be like positioning for it and autoing, and there's a lot of little like things to pay attention to if you want to min max the hero. It's definitely not easy. Another scatter arrow where we hit 8+ people, and I believe that one actually did pierce through, so that would not have worked from the position we were in. That would not have worked if. Oh no, we just did. So again, Giant Slayer is better. The amount of pierces you have to get for Giant Slayer not to be better is surprisingly high. But again, significant PvE value so far from clearing waves faster. I'm not going to run that down. Wave clear is rarely. They rarely get to a point in the game where wave clear is never not relevant. Again, massive wave. Don't do this, by the way. Wing waves is mana inefficient. As soon as you have Q4, it will not change the speed at which you clear the wave, so you're literally just spamming W for no reason. So that did, let's say that did 200 damage, and the minion was alive with like 201 health. It would have been alive with like 400 health. It wouldn't have changed the breakpoint for like how many autos you needed at this point in the game, because your auto is 434. So it doesn't matter if your auto did 200 damage or 400 damage, the minion would still have died. It is incredibly rare that W-ing the wave actually changes the breakpoints if you are Q4. If you're not Q4, then it gets all wonky. See, now we have a talent advantage, but we can't fight because we can't find a good position. It's just, and all of this came about as a result of us doing boss, right? Doing boss put us in this incredibly awkward position. We completely missed the W, so no value from either of any of the 16s. It's a shame we used jump and pull there, but it is what it is. Ardahaka is on Mega Dead. And like now, this fight's over. We just can't win this fight anymore. I'm not going to say, and arguably doing boss put us in the position where this fight happened. Because the whole reason we're here and pushing out through mid for this bottom altar is because we can't get bottom back. We can't get bottom back because we lost bottom from doing boss. Like doing boss directly put us in this position where our positioning sucks. Scatter is so fucking hard to hit. Oh my god. And now it's just like, we have slightly more health on our core, but it's 20 versus 20. The game is basically even at this point. Like, we have 3 more health on our core, but it's 20 versus 20. We're getting our building back slightly faster. Genji nerf, by the way. But okay, now we're a little bit ahead in terms of we have the structure advantage. Still haven't really gotten very much Pierce value. We've had a fair number of hero autos at this point. So like we haven't been hitting very many scatters. We've had two pretty good scatters. Neither of which was the result of Pierce existing. Those would have been good scatters with any of the 16s. Or well, either of the 16s, I should say. The other one doesn't really contribute to 16 damage. But we've also gotten like a lot of hero autos, and like Giant Slayer contributes in that case regardless, because auto damage. Now the game's just like, again, we're basically another. Like Joe literally activated D to block that arrow. No life on value.
Capture the altars, and we shall deal the Raven Lord a grievous.
Meet your doom, Gravekeeper.
Oh, that may have been a completely insane scatter, actually. 14-7, 3-2.
Meet your doom.
That looked really good. In terms of the number of targets it hit, not in terms of the damage to the focus target. Actually, it was just okay. It was a good call to scatter the nearest wall to the kill target, but he angled it back towards himself. I hate scatter is so difficult to aim. It's mega dead. Light Bomb again getting no value whatsoever because it's being used defensively, and Light Bomb is not a good defensive tool. It needs to be used proactively or it sucks. That's how the ult works. I'm not gonna finish watching this game. But yeah, Pierce didn't get the main value Pierce got was PvE related, which I think is bad. In order for Pierce to be good, and you need to be again doing that thing where you're scattering through someone's body and having it bounce back onto them. We just weren't seeing that. If you ever just hit normal scatters off a wall and it's not getting blocked by things like beetles or Dazzler turrets or any other shit that heroes can put down on the ground, or monsters like on shrines, Giant Slayer will be better than Pierce. The only reason not to go Pierce, the only reason to go Pierce outside of like shrines or the blockers, other than Pierce is easier. But then you have to actually be doing the thing that makes Pierce easier, which is scattering through people. On the initial hit is the R20 to give CDR to Dragon's Strike. One more question. Oh, and I don't actually need the... I think Kasu cast this game. So I think I can just do the thing. So it's Team Cat Green versus Madness, game 2. If he cast it, it's not on his YouTube yet. Let's wait for Mad, make sure I'm not missing it. Oh, not there. Okay. I'll just watch it then. Team Cat Green versus Madness. Gotcha. Confirmation from Spazzo, he did somehow screw up the isolation damage entry. So isolation will never register damage. That'll be fixed. There's a bunch of crap happening here. We're not going to talk about that. So we're waiting for 11 minutes into the game. How you doing today, chat? You doing good? Now that and I know how to bring up that menu now. Bring up that menu though. Pretty mad. Same. I don't know. I've had some stuff going on with my wife's family the last couple weeks, so I've actually been really tired. I'm like, we can't all be mad. Like, one of us has to be new and original. One of us can at least be black, right? Like, change it up a little, people.
Red team has destroyed a fort.
Okay, so there's a fight, apparently. 16 versus 16. Did not mean to.
The magic of the temples.
Well, I was last month when I was getting cancer surgery, and that sometimes is good. Yikes. Was this fight really around 11 minutes? I feel like they must be talking about the fight that happened. I guess they're talking about the fight that happened at like 10:45. But was that really? I don't even know if that was really like a fight. Sort of a thing that happened. Okay, but the question is push mid fort, and I like mid fort's not alive. Okay. There's not a. They say after fight, but was there a fight? I guess Brightwing died, so they must be okay. They must be talking about Brightwing dying and Zeratul dying. I'm not. Calling this 11 minutes is a little bit like I would call this 10 minutes, right? Because you have to analyze the fight happening. Okay, so there's a fight over mid at 9:42, nowhere near 11 minutes. Really good at Holy Ground. Holy Ground, by the way, should often be like this, where they're tucked against a wall, so that there's only one path of retreat. Yeah, that's super ideal. Also, Holy Ground truly screws up Diablo in a variety of ways. Diablo can technically take advantage of it if you're not good with your positioning, and make sure if you walk too close to the edge and he can Q you, you actually will get stunned, because the way Diablo Q works is it checks if he runs into terrain, like if he gets stopped by a collision blocker, even if his target doesn't get stopped by a collision blocker, which confuses people. So the Tyrael Diablo matchup with Holy Ground is a lot of precision in positioning after you Holy Ground in. See? Stuns. But if you're not in range, he can't click on you. I mean, he did it, but it's either target, right? Like Tyrael did not collide into his own terrain, right? Holy Ground does not block him. See? Oh no, he gets stunned by the E. Did they fix this? It used to be that if Diablo charged over an enemy Tyrael's Holy Ground, it checked if... Maybe they fixed it. I never saw that in the patch notes. He actually gets stunned from the flip. Good bunker. I mean, Diablo Q has always been very janky, but it used to be consistently. Like, there was a time when Diablo would have stunned material there, because he passed over something to block his collision. Okay, so the fight that ended at 10:04, nowhere near 11 minutes, what do you do first? After fight, do you push mid-fort? Do you do both temples or boss? Or do you both temples? So, whenever you're in the situation, you want to do the most dangerous thing first, in terms of the enemy team's positioning, and then progressive, and usually that means the thing farthest on their side of the map, and then back up. So the temples and boss are like in the middle of the map, or it's right here. I would argue that Hanzo and Rhaegar do not contribute a lot to sieging. Maybe, I mean, arguably, like Tyrael only contributes a lot to sieging if there's a wave, so there's no wave. He can't Swift Threat the wave, he can't shield the wave to keep it alive. So I want Tyrael to, if you think it's safe to split, and it should be because it's just a still alive, then Tyrael should leave immediately to go do one of the temples. Maybe Hanzo goes and does the other one, so you still have a frontliner with the team. And then Greymane and Rhaegar should definitely be sieging mid. Yeah, they should just siege mid. After after mid is dead and the temples have like started ticking, then you have to reevaluate. You have Holy Ground. You don't have time to kill mid fort and do both temples and do boss. You should definitely take the free fort. If you think you're going to do boss, you should kill mid fort and then do boss. So everyone kills mid fort as 5, then everyone goes to boss, and then you from that position you evaluate. That should take you roughly 20, 25 seconds, maybe 30 to do both of those things. And then that's when Zeratul and Brightwing will be alive again. And so you'll be, actually they'll all be alive. So you'll be in 5v5 situation, mid fort will be dead, 2 temples will be up, and boss will be pushing. Yeah, I think you just push mid fort and then do boss. Particularly because you have the Greymane. This is insane.
Killing spree.
It's so indecisive. And they're bringing... So Blaze is bringing up the wave so that boss will get more pressure, but Blaze is now doing a thing that's safest while the enemy team is dead. And like, what did I say at the start of this? You want to do the most dangerous thing while the enemy team is dead, and then progressively get safer and safer and safer as they come back to life. And they're losing mid shots. Yeah, he is also showing on the map, which is not ideal. This does put them ahead on structures, and for the most part in competitive, if you're behind on Sky Temple, the way that you win the game is doing boss. By removing boss from the map, you have essentially removed a win condition from the enemy team. So if they just... But like, they lost bottom. Their movement around the map and their indecisiveness cost them so much here. They could have been... They ended up like almost a full structure ahead, basically. I think they could have been much further ahead than that. Yeah, I would have preferred they didn't. Honestly, I would have preferred... I don't know if boss was correct, but in the duration when they were hitting mid-fort, they could have just been hitting mid-fort and then discussing what they think they should do next. So often when you win a fight, the best thing to do is do the thing that's literally closest to you and just like snap to it, just like instantly. Boom, 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 boom. And then while you're doing that, discuss what the correct thing is for the remainder of the death timers. So like maybe for the remainder of the death timers, the correct thing is Rhaegar and Greymane go do boss, and Tyrael goes to mid temple, and Hanzo starts helping with boss, but then is able to float up to help Tyrael if Tyrael gets gone on by Sylvanas on the mid temple, or like you can discuss these things and end up with really specific, really clear plans of action that are more difficult to execute like instantly, but you don't have to execute them instantly because you gave yourself 10 seconds of planning time while you're just hitting a fort. So I want to instantly do mid fort. And they even have Rhaegar Totem, right, to tank 3 shots. So they even have a little bit of we don't take damage for a second. That would have been really nice. They should just chill out. I'm really surprised that Diablo thing got fixed. I wonder if it's consistent. I wonder if it consistently works correctly now, where Diablo actually has to slam. It has to be his team's holy ground for it to work. I would actually be pretty happy if it was fixed, because I always thought the interaction was very strange. I didn't ever think the enemy Tyrael should be able to 200 health. Sylve, E13, and Inting. Name a more iconic trio. The Mosh interaction isn't time independent, Spazzo. If he does it from max range, it will always work. Because at that point, Diablo is going fast enough that it will always go in between the ticks. This has been tested extensively at this point. I'm not saying I know why it works that way exactly, but in testing, we've never managed to have Diablo be at max range and have it not interrupt the mosh. The explanation that we came up with was Q must be accelerating over time, and so it's going faster at the very, very end, and therefore it always is beating the game loop somehow. We tried it quite a few times, and it always worked. At max range and only at max range. I mean, boss is up and we're still ahead. So blue needs to do boss to really win this game. And we have Holy Ground. This was not a question, by the way. I just really want to emphasize this. The team that's behind needs to boss. Sometimes it is correct to let them boss if you can defend it. But if defending it means keeping bottom wave pushed out aggressively as much as possible, bottom wave is obviously not pushed out. But also, if you're a team that has boss control, you should not be letting the enemy team do boss for free. That is a fight we're taking because on average it should go better for you. And then Blaze dies to getting picked because we're massively split. And the game's over at this point. Blue is now in a commanding lead because boss is doing this, and they're gonna get both temples. Even if they hadn't just been able to end here, they would have actually been ahead in the game from that point onward. Oh, yeah. By the way, you should go VP whenever the enemy team has Tyrael and is going to go Sanctification. Fun fact. That's it. That's the last question. We're done. So there was a huge discussion today in the Discord about Alarak eBuild. The previous review of Rich's eBuild Alarak games that I did never got exported to YouTube and is gone. So what we're going to do next week sometime, maybe on Tuesday, we'll see, is go over Rich's eBuild Alarak games and sort of explain a bunch of the things that aren't intuitive about playing the build. And then we're going to look at some Alarak eBuild in-house games that are recent from EU in-houses. And maybe if someone plays AA or Q build in in-houses, we might look at that too and sort of examine the difference in how all three Alarak builds function. I wanted to see Spaz's UI thing actually. I did not know the hotkey for the menu.
Prepare yourselves. The battle begins shortly.
Gee.
10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go! Kill!
It's having implemented for every hero, by the way. But yeah, so when we're looking at Malf W, I don't know. I'm just running at 1920 by 1080. That's my resolution. When we're looking at like Malf W or any other highly specific thing, where we're just trying to look at a specific ability, I'll be able to have it up on the screen now over like drag wherever I want, and all of the stats associated with that ability will be here. So for some heroes, this is going to be like incredibly useful for doing live replay analysis. And in particular for Syl, the way that he implemented it for me is Black Arrow's bonus damage to Withering Fire, so we'll be able to see how much bonus damage we got from each thing. Shows fine at 4K. I do not have a 4K monitor. So it's Alt-G. Good mental note. That's going to be it for the stream. Thank you everyone for watching. Hopefully you guys are excited at the prospect of some more content from next week. Do I want to go? Yeah, I'm going to go. But I will say that the EU in-house thing that Cure is doing, that actually has a prize pool, and it's using BRB Soaking's bot that actually has MMR built in, is really neat. And if there's any interest, I might actually end up casting some of those games either tomorrow or next week. We'll see. No, I'm just finishing. I'm actually about to host Hasu. Should I host Hasu? Or should I host Cure? I feel like since you're here asking me that question, I should. Anyway. Hasu. Beautiful. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Remember the stream where we never lose. We always win, or we learn something. Learning is always a win. Have a good night, everyone.